Hello everyone, I'm Admiral Logan, and it's time to talk some Legends of Tomorrow. It's episode 10, and the episode in question is Prodigy. I can't believe we're already this far into the series. We're kind of in the home stretch, or at least that's what it's supposed to feel like. Instead, to me, it feels a little bit more like, instead of running the race the whole time and logically getting to this place, we've been kind of stopping off for Gatorade a lot, and now we've jumped into a golf cart, and that took us to the last leg of the race. Because we've been meandering a lot in this show, and it's been kind of a lot of one-and-done episodes where we're acting like we're progressing story, but what we're really doing is just generically giving each of our characters kind of something to do, but not really drawing them in a complex and interesting way, and characters that seemed more defined and came more alive for me in the previous shows that they were in have seemed kind of cookie cutter and cartoony in this show. I think this episode is better about that. I think that it has sobered up a little bit. I'm not expecting it to stay that way necessarily, but I liked this episode better than most of the rest of the show. In fact, I think this might be the best episode of this show so far. We have what I think is kind of a standard time travel question of, what if you found the next Adolf Hitler as a child? What do you do with him? If you knew that this guy was going to become a tyrant and he was going to ruin the future, he was going to create Rip Hunter's very bad, very horrible, awful, no good, very bad future, what do you do with him? What is the ethical thing to do? Can you kill him because the ends justify the means, or can you kill him because if he was actually already that tyrant, it might be a righteous kill? Is that kid the same person that he will be later? Because he hasn't actually made those choices yet, but you know he's going to. So then what you do, if you think that's wrong, is you try to change him. And one thing I was kind of surprised by, although maybe I shouldn't have been, since we've still got a couple episodes left of the season and we have to drag things out and figure out a way to keep the show going until the end, is that the kid doesn't actually change, and Rip Hunter makes the right choice, and then he starts to question at the end whether or not it is the right choice. At first, he considers killing the kid that Rip Hunter is mentoring, and the idea is in this future, it's kind of a police state, and there's kind of a mega corporation that runs or mega corporations, I'm fuzzy on that run everything and have kind of taken over the government. And the CEO of this major company, his kid, his heir, is being groomed by Vandal Savage to eventually take over, and that's how Rip Hunter's family is going to get killed in about 5 years. And so Rip Hunter is like, I don't know what else to do, maybe we have to kill him. I like that what he apparently, and I just wish that this was more connected and talked about from the previous episode. I guess at the end of last episode, when he said that this is going to be the hardest time to deal with Vandal Savage in, he was talking about an ethical thing as opposed to a physical force, we can't defeat it kind of thing. And I like that a lot. If the idea is supposed to be that, because Rip Hunter is kind of deceptive and doesn't always tell you everything, and things are usually not exactly what they seem with him, I come to think about it, I guess he has that in common with Oliver Queen. I like the idea that he's been wrestling with this whole time. I might be in a position where I have to kill a child, and I don't know if I can bring myself to do that, and I wish that it was talked about as a thing that he's been wrestling with this entire time. I like the bit where he says, you know, maybe we'll have to kill this kid, and then Stein and Palmer are both on the same moral page and say, no, we can't do that, and then he starts talking about kidnapping instead, and Palmer is like, oh, okay, well, that's at least an improvement. We're making progress. I kind of liked that. And so it's decided that they're going to go kidnap this kid, and eventually Rip Hunter steps in and decides, no, maybe I do have to kill him after all, and he can't bring himself to do it. And so he ends up giving him this big stirring speech, hoping that just in that moment, that speech will be enough to turn this kid around. And of course it's not. It actually makes things worse. And I like the consequences of that. I like that Rip Hunter goes from thinking he has to do the really morally bereft ends justifies the means thing to being naive enough to think that with all this talk about from Jackson and a couple other characters, all this talk that we could just talk to him and maybe we can change his mind, that he becomes a little bit too naive and maybe even idealistic about it. Or just wishful thinking. The problem with all of that, of course, is that, like in a lot of episodes of this show, we could just be smarter about our plan. Here's an idea. Why don't you go talk to the guy's dad and tell him what's happening with Rip Hunter and try to get him to keep the kid away from, or Rip Hunter, with Vandal Savage, and try to get him to keep the kid away from Savage. That might be enough to turn this around, or maybe bring the kid aboard your ship and show him what's going to happen to the future. Because after all, you are trying to change the future. You're not concerned about the timeline past a certain point, because unless I'm wrong about this, I think the idea is that he's trying to change the timeline from what it really is supposed to be. He keeps talking about time not wanting to change and time wanting to happen the way it happens, as if time were this a linear straight line that has already happened and doesn't change unless you start going back and monkeying with it. And I don't think that's exactly what we have, because this show is so murky and amorphous about its time travel. So I'm kind of done trying to figure that out, because I don't think that we're being very thoughtful about it, and we kind of just do whatever version of time travel we want to in the moment, or we keep adding things and taking things away and stuff. And Flash makes it even more complicated. But I just think that we could be a little bit smarter in our plan, and it is ridiculous to think that a singular speech would necessarily turn this kid around and change things. But we have that kind of logic all over this episode, and really all over this show, because nobody seems to have any clue about how cause and effect and butterfly effect would potentially work. For instance, there's this ridiculous scene where Stein is talking to Palmer about his alleged child, who's played by, or alleged great-great-great-granddaughter, who's played by Jewel Staite. And by the way, she was wasted in this. That could have been anybody, and that was unfortunate. It was cool to see her again, but she got no screen time and was completely wasted. But when he still thinks that she's his child, and it turns out that it's actually his brother's, and that his brother takes over Palmer Tech and ends up creating what Palmer keeps calling the evil robots, these automated police state patrol robots that are oppressing everyone. He finds out later that that's whose daughter that actually is, but when he thinks it's still his, he feels bad that he might have accidentally had a child in 2016, and I'm fuzzy on his history now. I'm trying to figure out who is he talking about Felicity? That must be it, and that maybe Felicity had his child and he didn't know she was pregnant. I guess that's who he's talking about. And anyway, he says, if only that hadn't happened, then, or if only I had been there and hadn't taken myself out of the timeline, then my kid would have grown up with a father and might not, and the timeline might be different. We might not have had this legacy of evil robots. And Stein has had some whoppers of dumb lines in this show. This might take the cake. He says, "Don't you think that's stretching a little?" No, it's not. And this guy, who is supposed to be the voice of moral reason in this episode, which I absolutely hate every time the show does this, since he did a really more than morally ambiguous, awful thing in the pilot when he drugged Jackson just so that he could get to go on a time spaceship, that he's the voice of reason and keeps talking about the ethics of killing a child and all of this. I don't, after that, and after we, he's not been redeemed for that, and I don't know that he can be, just as flippant as the show's been about that. I mean, they kind of brushed it under the rug, and he sort of apologized for it, but no, this guy is really hypocritical all the time. The show doesn't know it. And anyway, but the guy being your big voice of moral reason in this episode basically completely discounts the importance of parenting and having a good father figure in your life. That's ridiculous. So as I said, I like that we kind of have a real ethical conundrum here, but we, like we always do, kind of ignore the interesting stuff and the real character stuff, and we don't spend any time with that, and we kind of genericify it, and in favor of usually kind of banter and action and stuff. And the big thing with this episode is that we don't spend any time with this kid. Like it's called Prodigy. It should be about this prodigy. We should spend some time with them and draw a real character out of him, and we don't do that. There's really nothing to him, and he's just becoming Vandal Savage Light, basically. I don't know what exactly his upbringing has been apart from Vandal Savage. I guess it's just this very oversimplified, he has a thirst for power that has been, that's being satiated and grown by, built up by Vandal Savage. And he's, what's his parenting been like? I mean, it's like the episode itself has Stein's view on having a good role model in your life, and I hate that. I need to know how this kid got this way, and why he's such a spoiled brat, and why he's, whether or not his parents solidified any kind of moral center in him, and we don't have any of that. The actor doesn't help. The kid is trying his best, but there's just not anything behind his eyes, and I'm not, I have the same thing with him that I had with the kid Deathstroke, in the Future Arrow episode, where I understand what the character is supposed to be, but there's not any presence, there's not even any gravitas, and with this kid, there should be this fire under him. Like, he has this thirst for power and this unsatiable ambition, and I just don't really see that in him. The hot girl Adam stuff is still a thing I don't care about, and I can kind of see where it's going. I thought we were playing it, and I guess we sort of were, for cheap drama here, where with the line, I feel like I'm cheating on you, I feel like I'm cheating on Carter with you, because she's having those flashbacks that were completely unnecessary, and I thought were kind of just wasting time. She says that at first that she feels like she's cheating on Carter with him because she's remembering more of her life and she's supposed to be with him, but then you get to the end of the episode and she says, "You are my future now," and man, just the really cliche, cheesy dialogue in this show that would be a lot more okay if it would allow itself to be the cartoon that it sometimes kind of wants to be, instead of trying to dupe me into thinking that it's a good dramatic show. I'm not expecting them to stay together. I'm sure Carter will show back up toward the end. We've already got Rory sort Florida kind of back on the team in just a couple of episodes. And so I expect that he'll be back soon, and then we'll have a love triangle, and I'm not really looking forward to that because we can all tell where that's going to go. Just one time in these shows, I want to see a couple actually get to stay together. Just one time. You know, it actually happens in real life. I know, it's hard to believe. TV would have you think that every married couple breaks up and that every romantic relationship always ends in tears. Just one time without killing off a character just as they're finally getting to get together after 3 seasons of Will They, Won't They, or without manufacturing some kind of a reason a character has to lie that's like completely understandable, but the other character in the relationship refuses to understand just because you have to have that drama. Of course, no one knows what show I'm talking about right now. I'm being so cryptic about it. Just one time. The Adam stuff was kind of cool, and once again, I just wish that we had actually gotten to spend a little bit of time with his supposed great-great-great-granddaughter. What was weird about it is that he's not talking, is that he's not suspicious immediately that he's famous in the future, because at the beginning of the show, the whole idea was supposed to be that he never amounted to anything and that he left no sort of legacy, and he wanted to be part of the legends so that he could become maybe a legend. That was his whole thing. He wanted to feel like he mattered, and he is now maybe my favorite character on this show, which is bizarre because I didn't like him at all in Arrow, but I'm finding him to be the most relatable person, the most consistently written person. I understand where he's coming from. I think he's endearing. He's got more of a Superman thing now in his ethics and his ideology. I like that a lot. I want Sarah to be my favorite character, but I feel like her personality has been kind of genericified. I mean, that's the word of the day, is just generic. You take a character that was kind of more three-dimensional and you turn them and you flatten them, and that we've sort of done that with Sarah. But it was just weird that and like, he is famous for a not good thing, certainly, that the evil robots, but why isn't he immediately questioning that? Oh wait, I did have a legacy. Hey, Rip Hunter, how come you never told me about this? And I was gonna really cry foul on it if you didn't have the twist with it, which is that it actually the bust of his head was not actually him, but his brother, who I guess looks just like him. I didn't know he had a twin brother. Is it a twin brother? I don't know. And so when you have that, it at least is more consistent and makes sense with what we had set up before, which I can't expect necessarily from this show. But we've got characters not asking the logical questions. You've got characters feeling a little bit more like real people than they have lately, but I still wish that we got to spend more time with the human stuff and the ethical questions, but at least the ethical conundrum here is a real one. That's going to be it for me today. I will see you again next week with more Legends. I think Legends airs next week. Whenever the next episode is, I will be here talking about it. And in the meantime, thanks a lot for watching Primetime Crisis. I'm Admiral Logan.